All right, listeners across to our guest now joining us. Sarah Spector, attorney and Democrat analyst, is with us. We also have David Sofair, Republican strategist, now joining us. David Sofair, you have a situation where you have several of these victims marching up to the Capitol Hill. There is, a bipartisan panel of at least two members of parliament. One is a Democrat, one is a Republican, who's saying that this is not about politics or any individual. There's a larger public issue over here of women's safety and about these victims who have been exploited. Why shouldn't the complete files be put out? Why should there be redacted information that's put out in the public domain? David Sofair.
Thank you for having me. And that's a great question. The Epstein Files have been around for a long time now. We had them when Joe Biden was in power. And since Trump has regained office, he has released some information. They've also released some footage of Epstein's final minutes in the New York cell. So it's really a interesting one, and it will be, I personally think that the administration will release more files, and hopefully it won't be redacted. With that being said, we really need to focus on who's involved, in those files. I mean, you have a prolific offender, which is the Clinton family. They're heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein and other groups of survivors and sexual abuse victims. That's very well documented. You also have, the list goes on. Epstein was connected to a whole host of people in various capacities, from host,
right,
to financier. So he's a very well. Let me cut
to the chase, David Sofair. The allegation appears to be coming in that there are very powerful people, and there have been allegations. We know all about what Elon Musk has said, that Trump is in the Epstein files. Is that the reason that the complete data is not out yet?
It's hard to speculate on that. So they've not given a reason for that. So when we cut to the chase, has Elon Musk seen the files? Possibly. Who are in those files? And what is in there? Your guess is as good as mine. We're not sure. Should the files be released? Sure, I think so. I actually personally, am of the ethos that the files should be released. I think it would be a good thing. I've said that for a long time.
Okay.
It's I think it'd be good. But having said that as well, it's important to note that these files have been in the hands of the Biden administration, which has been the most corrupt and dishonest administration, openly corrupt, and for a very long time. So it'd be interesting to see what they've added to those files, as they have huge influence.
Let me bring in Sarah Spector on that note. Sarah Spector, the question that then arises is that, of course, you can come in and respond to what David is saying, but there's also a counter-argument, which is that if this was such a sensitive issue, and we are seeing many Democrat leaders talk about it now, why was it not then put out in the public domain when Joe Biden was the president?
Well, I believe Maxwell was prosecuted under the Biden administration, and so that was a long trial, and her case was still under appeal, is my understanding. So usually you don't make everything public while something's in trial. This case has been going on. I'm an ex-child abuse prosecutor. I've prosecuted these kind of cases for 17 years. And this case has been handled horrendously from the beginning. I believe Acosta, who is in the cabinet of Trump, was the main prosecutor down in Florida when the feds originally prosecuted his case, and he got like a sweetheart deal and got probation. From then on, it's been handled horribly. Democrats, Republican, whatever, all prosecutors up until recently have been doing a terrible job for these victims. victims, okay? It took a newspaper journalist to open this case up. It took a newspaper. And I think that normally as a prosecutor, I wouldn't release information. I would let the victims decide, because a lot of times victims do not want things to be public. They're embarrassed. They don't want their names to be public. They don't want the things that were done to him to be public. But it looks like these victims want it out, and everything should be released. And it's really disturbing to me right now that it's the Republican House members that are trying to stop it. I don't know why anybody would want to stop the release of this information, because I understand Biden didn't do it, but the state of the deal is now is that every Democrat wants it released, and a few Republicans. And I don't understand why over 200 Republicans in the House are trying to block this information from coming down. It's really ridiculous. The victims need justice. I'm really appalled by this. I agree. Biden should have released them. This thing should have been taken care of when this all came out to begin with. Right. But whether it's Republicans or Democrats,
David on that. David, you have Sarah who's speaking or taking up the cudgels for the victims in this particular case, and even she says that perhaps Biden should have released it. But why there is renewed pressure now, as we all know, is that President Trump promised to release the files, but now when the second tranche has come out, they are only redacted files, with Democrats saying that 97% of them have already been made public. Why is this? Why is the Republican administration, in that sense, President Trump's administration, allowing the issue to drag further, which is creating more suspicion in people's minds?
It's a tough one because, if there are so many different theories here, so I wouldn't want to speculate. A lot of people are saying that Biden's administration, put a lot of things in there that they inserted information and disinformation in there. That was a reoccurring theme of their administration. So that is one theory. The other thing is that, you have 200 Dems that basically stand for nothing. They run on a party that just says Trump is bad. These are people that don't stand for anything. They don't have a message besides Trump's evil, he's a tyrant, he's very, very, very bad. So you have to be a bit wary about that. But, I agree with Sarah that.
But there is a lot of information that at least before 2002, David Sofair, Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein were seen together at a number of occasions. Sometimes at parties, sometimes at Mar-a-Lago, and of course is also rumored to have used his private jet. So there is a considerable amount of information out there in the public domain that it's not just Mr. Clinton, but also Mr. Trump, who had, for at least a considerable period of time, fairly good relations with Jeffrey Epstein.
You're reporting also, about having a private party with 25 cheerleaders isn't accurate. If you see the tapes there that you're watching now, there's other people at that party. Epstein was a member of Mar-a-Lago, and then he got kicked out for very bad behavior. He was soliciting the staff there, etc. So President Trump kicked him out, and he stopped his relationship with Epstein, and that was a long time ago. The Clintons and other people, in the Democrat Party stayed with him as well. Is Trump in the Epstein files? He might be, but to what capacity, we're not sure. So, we need to see how all this plays out. But yes, I think I said.
Sarah, I want you to come in on this entire question, because this is something we often hear from Republicans, that Democrats say that it's all horrific, that this is, a cover-up of epic proportions, so on and so forth. But when the allegations against the Clintons come up, they go silent strangely. How do you respond to this line that is often taken by Republicans who comment on this issue?
Well, okay, so Epstein was connected to a lot of famous people, Democrats and Republicans. I don't know what Clinton's connection is, nor do I know what Trump's is. There were a lot of people, and I'm going to give Trump some grace in this. I always have. I'm an ex-prosecutor. I don't go around and accusing people of child molestation unless I have proof. I have no proof that Trump was a child molester or knew about Epstein's deal, nor do I have any proof that Clinton's did. He hobnobbed with all of Hollywood, he liked to be connected to famous people, and he threw a lot of parties that a lot of famous people went to. I don't know what is in those files. I do know that it is time for some clarity, whether it implicates the Clintons, whether it implicates Republicans, whether it implicates judges, whether it implicates people who give a lot of money to the Republican Democratic Party.
All right. And very interestingly, earlier today, I'm going to wrap up the show. David Sofae and Sarah Spector, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us. But interestingly, there is, in fact, a video that has been put out of some officials of the United States government who are reportedly talking about the government redacting every Republican while leaving all the liberal Democratic people on the Epstein client list. And there's a clarification coming in from the Department of Justice where someone says that they met a person on a dating app and later, of course, were not told that that individual concerned is a journalist. Is that something that has led to this video being recorded and coming out to the public domain? There are a lot of questions that are emerging. It's still a story that we're going to continue to track right here on Times Now. Sarah Spector, David Sofae, thanks so much for joining us this evening.